Carrie went in the house, grabs the gun, and he comes back out to where Trish is about, 10, 15 feet away from her car.
Okay. All right. Goodbye, Reese.
Nice to meet you. You gonna meet Jesus.
I guess we can you just introduce yourself?
My name's Mary Dees. I live in Orlando, Florida. I am the proud sister of Patricia Dees Birmingham. She goes by Reese to those that knew her after she left Orlando. I always call her Trish. So there's three names. There's Patricia, her legal name, Reese, her adult name, and then Trish is her, growing up name.
Is she older or younger?
She is almost 3 years exact younger than I am, 2 years and 11 months. Oh. So she was my baby sister.
Oh.
And was she your only sibling?
She is.
A lot of people do know about this case who are on live, but for those who do not, maybe between Mary and John, you guys can do a quick summary of what happened, and we can really go into some of the horrific details about what you guys are going through right now.
I'll start. So my sister, visited more times than she ever had in 2020 and 2021. It was really interesting how many times we got together, because usually it was 1 or 2 times a year. And during COVID, it was, 4 or 5 times a year we were seeing each other, which was, amazing. The October of 21, I sent my, at the time, 8-year-old daughter to have her first trip to go visit her aunt and uncle by herself to Houston, Texas, which is where this occurred, Spring, Texas, to be exact. And so there was absolutely no reason for me to believe that I was sending an 8-year-old to a dangerous situation in October of 2021. The following week was a family reunion in Mississippi, and my sister had said that she wasn't going to be able to come. Well, last minute, she ended up showing up, and it was kind of surprising. And hindsight being 2020, I believe that it was her husband that was preventing her from coming, and she made the decision last minute to come. And it was literally a 24-hour trip for her. She said that he demanded that she, report back home the next day. And again, she used that word, but at the time, I didn't think anything about it. So jumping to Thanksgiving, so in November, I spoke to her. Everything seemed good. They were, her husband and her daughter, who was 16 at the time, was going out to Thanksgiving dinner. And they were not going to cook at home. They weren't going to clean at home. It was they were very excited. And so were we at my house. So we kind of joked about that. A couple of days after that, I called and apologized that I was not going to be able to make it to her birthday celebration, which was going to be December 11th is her birthday. But I knew a surprise that her best friend here in Orlando was going to be there. So I had to keep the, hey, what are you doing? I'm not going to be able to make it. And I so wish I could, be there. But let me tell you, when you turn 50 next year, it's going to be epic. We're going to have the best celebration ever. She said, which is very strange now, Mary, what are you talking about? I'm not going to turn 50.
Oh,
and
wow.
Yeah. So that was very bizarre. So getting to the point of December 6th, 2021, 10:30 in the morning, Houston time, which is 11:30 Orlando time. I had already gone to a doctor's appointment, and I was headed to an eye doctor's appointment. And all of a sudden, I felt sick. I felt like I thought I had COVID. So I ended up going through a drive-through COVID station to find out that I did not have COVID. Long story short there, I own a business. My phone rings all the time. It was ringing from about 2:30 p.m. on that day, the 6th. but I wasn't answering it because, I get a lot of out of the area calls and I didn't feel good. So I wasn't answering the phone. That evening around 7 o'clock, I took cold medicine and NyQuil and decided I was going to get the kids fed fast food and I was going to go lay down. At about 11 o'clock p.m. So she had been deceased for 12 and a half hours. I finally answered the phone and the detective said, is this Mary Dees? And I was like, yes, it is. And he said, this is Detective Haynes. And I need to let you know that your sister has passed. And I was like, what are you talking about? And of course, immediately I'm thinking car accident. I'm thinking, robbery because she had a very large diamond on her hand. She drove a Tesla X series. So it had the doors so it was very, flashy. She was always, well put together. And so it was accident or robbery. And so I'm freaking out. I'm trying to wake myself up from this fog of, cold medicine. And the detective said it was her husband. Her husband killed her. And I was like, what? I mean, that doesn't make sense. So
you never thought that would be a possibility? I was going to ask you more about him, Carrie, and what you thought of him before all this, but that never came up that he would.
Hindsight, I saw things that are suspicious. I mean, they were married almost 20 years. He's been my brother-in-law almost 20 years. We've gone to dinners. We've gone to holiday celebrations. We've gone to vacations together. We've stayed in hotel rooms together. I mean, I sent my daughter there. So no, at the time, I didn't think he was dangerous. I thought he was narcissistic. I thought he was egotistical. He liked to talk down to, everyone. Originally, when I first met him, he was a pilot. He had a pilot's license, and the whole joke of, how do you know when someone's a pilot? They'll tell you. That was him. He was very boastful, loud, opinionated. But was very kind, also generous. When I never expected him to, pay for dinner if we were to go out or whatever. He's like, no, I got it. So he liked to be the man in charge. And
wow, I would have never guessed that seeing the video. In fact, I couldn't find what his occupation was. Maybe I just didn't look hard enough, but I would never guess that because he's been in the insurance business, trucking insurance, like 18-wheeler insurance, multi-million-dollar accounts since he was young. So his grandparents had a insurance company, and he's had insurance companies, which he has, sold. At the time of the passing, he was working for someone else. But yeah, he had a very significant, high-paying job. The drinking, I look back, he was a functional alcoholic. It concerned me, but it concerned me with my sister's drinking as well. She didn't drink as much, but she drank often. So I'm a social drinker. So when I would see, like one after another, it's like, whoa, that's a lot of drinking. So there was definitely that concern of both of them having, drinking issues. Yeah, I did see in I think it was 2008, he had a DUI. I saw that. I mean, I can't remember what time this happened, but it was midday, and he was, you could tell, really, really gone, inebriated.
Right. No, and that's why I do not have 100% proof, but from the airline, or not airline, the other people that lived on, because they actually lived prior to this house at an airport. in a hangar, which was very dressed up.
Really?
So a lot of the pilots, these private pilots that do a lot with oil and trucking and stuff in Texas, a lot of them have, come and spoken to me about he lost his pilot's license because of the alcohol, and he wouldn't stop. And that's one of the things that you can't have. The other thing that no one's mentioned, besides holding an insurance license, besides holding, a pilot's license at one time, he was an FFL. So he sold, and he had a special license where he could sell machine guns, which takes a special type.
So he was a gun dealer, basically.
Yes. So he could deal in firearms. And the house was, when I got there, he was in jail for less than 48 hours, which I hope we have time to get to. But the house was just loaded, and the hangar that they rented was also loaded with firearms and ammo. And there was and no one's brought this up, there was a burglary the night of my sister's passing where a whole bunch of guns and jewelry was stolen. So there's a lot to this story that is questionable.
Wow.
So it does seem like he has a lot of connections, influence.
I know that you mentioned one of the attorneys that was actually not in the courtroom because he's running for the DA in Harris County. But if you look up Dan Cogdell, who's the head attorney, he actually, again, I can't make this stuff up. He was the understudy of a guy named Richard Racehorse Haynes, who in the 70s got off the killer who killed Carrie's biological dad. There's been a 2020 episode on it. Right. So if you look up Cullen Davis, Cullen Davis, murder or mansion murder, his biological father was Stan Farr, which was a basketball player and looks just like Carrie. Yeah. So the problem with, the media frenzy that I've had is there's so many stories out there that are half truths, not getting the full. This is a crazy, one of a kind, you can't make it up, snowball of bad luck.
No kidding. Well, we want to make sure that you get the opportunity to say all the things. We can take as much time as you have. I think part of what is maybe so hard to believe for a lot of people who have seen the video is that there is a video of the entire thing.
Okay. All right. Goodbye, Reese.
I see you. You gonna meet Jesus.
And how are we not talking about a man who's in prison for the rest of his life?
Right. Or that was out on bond for over 2 years. And I've asked, because the court and the prosecutors are being very, very tight with all the records, even with me. I want to know who allowed the video to get out to the media, because now it's there forever. It's, it's never going to go away. And Oli, my niece, she wasn't in the courtroom during that portion of it because it was so just horrific. And, they took a very small clip of the actual murder that took place, and they placed it on the internet everywhere. And someone had to leak that video. Yep. It was not supposed to be leaked.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm done.
I'm done too.
Done.
I'm done too. Don't blame him.
Then get the f*** out.
It makes it seem almost like, because they put in the part, who is this guy? Like Carrie's telling your sister, like, she is being unfaithful. It is almost like they're making it seem like that's the whole motive. But I tried to look for the whole video, because I know you said there was, in your Facebook group, we see him, or maybe you saw the whole video, but 30 minutes wielding a shotgun and yelling all this stuff and being drunk and following her around. But that
you don't see all.
Yeah, you don't see all that. You don't see.
So the short version of what that is about is it's about 40 minutes long. The majority of it About 35 minutes of it is all audio only, and they are inside the house. They are saying the most awful things to one another that I've ever heard humans speak. And I love my sister dearly, but there were things in which I think played into the jury disliking my sister. I'm putting my sister on the defense. There were things that both of them said that were just awful. But before I get into that, one of the crazy things, again, my sister's not here to defend the story. So I've only been able to put things together based off of speaking to people that know, being at every second of the trial. And there's still things that are kind of missing. But one of the opening statements that the defense gave was to make him, Mr. Birmingham, is such an amazing man that he has been impotent since 2017. And because of that, he opened their relationship, opened their bedroom doors to other people because he wanted to make sure that his wife was satisfied. It was sick.
Yeah, because she's not here to say, no, that's not true.
And even though, because I had heard and I had never heard or known of this prior to, again, my sister was not perfect, but she was honest and kind. And if I ever thought anything, I could have asked her, she would have told, but we didn't talk about people's intimate lives. That's just not something that we talked about. So there was information that came to me that they had a swinger lifestyle, which each their own. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But if I did, if someone's in that type of lifestyle, you can't tell me you're jealous. You can't tell me that, oh, well, you can do this and this. Oh, but, don't be flirtatious, which my sister was flirtatious with everyone. That's how she spoke. That was her term of endearment. Like when she would meet someone, she would, hey, honey, how are you? Or, talk, oh, I can't wait to see you. Or, she was very I've told many people, I had 20 plus people tell me that they were her best friend. Well, I know who her best friend is. But they honestly felt like they were her best friend because that's how she made them feel. And when you were in her, whether it was me, whether it was my kids, whether it was her best friend or her colleagues or her people she was selling houses to, she always made that person feel like that was the only person on the earth at that time.
That's beautiful. Yeah, you could tell all of her accomplishments too. I mean, incredibly smart, passionate about real estate.
He asked her, oh, you're recording this. And she said, no, I'm not recording this because it was audio only. And he was like, this isn't going to work out well in front of the judge because, they're going to see that you're, cheating on me or leaving me she was recording it for her benefit, I think, to go to a divorce attorney. He was doing his part in saying that, they were going to get a divorce.
He was trying to sabotage the recording. That makes perfect sense now that, the little audio I did here, I could definitely see that. So
it got really bad where now this is audio only, so you can only hear what's going on. He grabbed her and she screamed, Carrie Birmingham, don't you touch me. Don't you touch me, Carrie Birmingham. And she grabbed a knife. You can hear the knife come out of the kitchen, knife area. And he goes, oh, what are you going to grab a knife on me? And she's, no, just leave me alone. Do not touch me. And then you can hear her throw it into what we assume is the sink. And he goes, I'm going to go get my gun. And she goes, go get your gun again. I'm going to sit right here and just go ahead and wait for you. So again is when I'm like, how did the jury not hear that? So you're telling me that she just said, go get your gun again, that this hasn't happened before. And I've spoken to people that have said that he's threatened guns at her in the past. He never did that in front of me because he would have only ever have done it once.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, so she sits down. on the couch, and he comes down. It sounds like he came from upstairs, and he goes, "All I need to do right now is not kill you. I'm going to kill you.
yeah.
All you're going to need to do is," and he goes, "You better be glad that your friend is still here, because they had a friend there over the weekend, which stirred up a lot of this, him being upset, because on Sunday," so again, sudden passion, he got mad on Sunday because the friend told him that she was leaving him and taking Oli. So that's what started him getting all up. And my sister was at work, by the way, which was proven with a client that she was working with on showing a house.
What was the friend staying with your sister and Carrie at the time? So she was in the house hearing all this.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And so he said, "Oh, you're lucky your friend's here. So there's there's a witness. The only reason I'm not going to kill you." You just said the only reason I'm not going to kill you is because there's a witness. Well, my sister, being the brave soul that she was, says, "Oh, I think she already left. She probably got an Uber to the airport." So now, because he thought she was still in the house, my sister, who's sitting in the chair saying that she's not going to, be scared of him going and getting a gun, my sister is now telling him there's no witness. So she finally gets up from there, which was, a good portion, because they were going back and forth. Like I said, some of what was said was terrible on both of their sides. She gets up, gets her purse, gets her keys, has her phone, and this is when the video starts. She's exiting out to go to her car. Well, he is now without a gun, comes outside and starts threatening her. Well, she takes off, not to the car. She takes off down the street of this very affluent neighborhood. So other ring cameras are picking up the, chasing. He chases her in his robe without a gun down the street to a cul-de-sac, and she's videoing him, and he's stumbling all over the place, and she starts laughing. My sister has a nervous laugh. That she doesn't get nervous or anything often, but when she does get a little nervous, everything starts being really silly to her, and she'll start giggling. She was giggling, which was kind of eerie for me to hear. So I think the jury felt like, "Oh, you're making fun of him because he's stumbling in his robe that's open, showing all of his, stomach and everything else. And you're not being gentle with this man that's chasing you."
Did anyone call the police?
No one was there. And thankfully, we'll get to the neighbor. No one saw any of this until after. And then they saw their video cameras once they found out what happened. So she circled back. One of the neighbors said, "Mary, if she would have just come to my house and knocked on the door or, kept going, it wouldn't have happened." But what happened is she circled back. And on the video, she says, "Carrie, are you done playing your stupid games?" And he said, yes, I am. So she's calmly now walking back to her car with her purse, getting with the video still on, getting to the car. Carrie went in the house. The gun I'm guessing, was right there next to the door, because he didn't bring it outside when he did the chase. Grabs the gun, and he comes back out to where Trish is about, 10, 15 feet away from her car. And that's where he starts saying, "Well, what about," and I won't name them because if they are on here, I did tell the guys that I know, the names that he brought up, saying, "Oh, what about this person? You cheated on him." And she's like, "No, we've never been together. He's my friend. We've never, and then he brought up someone else that she dated in high school that visited them with his girlfriend, not, a year ago. And she's like, "I've never been with him. Even when we dated in high school, never, nothing ever happened." So she went through all of these people that he kept saying over and over and over again, which is about the time when the video picks up. And then she's like, "What are you going to, are you going to do this this on camera. And he said, again, goodbye, Reese. I mean, so you have enough to say that. And then I'm going to have you go meet Jesus. It's disgusting.
He already made his mind up.
Absolutely.
And the fact that you said, sorry to interrupt, but the fact that you said that he left the shotgun there to chase your sister down the street, to me, I'm thinking he was probably thinking, oh, I know I can't run with a shotgun down the street because that's illegal and I don't want to go to prison. So I'm going to leave it here. But now that she's in the driveway, well, this is my property.
If you look at the video closely, you can see him where he tilts the gun back and brings his eyes back to see if the safety's off. So he does this just to make sure the safety's off before he aims it within 5 feet of my sister. It was terrible. And then
I did not know that.
Was he trying to say that he didn't know that the safety was on as part of the, or he assumed, like he thought the safety was on when he shot? Is that one of the things he tried to say?
No, that never came up. But to me, he was making sure that it was not on so he could do what he had planned on doing.
Right.
How did the jury not see that?
And this gun, I mean, it is like no shotgun I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I mean, it is
that.
a very high dollar.
It was silver, and I didn't even know I've never seen it before in my life, actually, like maybe a pump
Brunelli
shotgun.
or something. Yeah, it was a very high dollar gun. So one of the things that everyone, including the initial report, got wrong is they all say that he shot her 3 times. Mm-hmm. He didn't shoot her 3 times. He shot her 1 time close range. And for some, I do not know the reason why. He shot the front left tire out of the Tesla and the back left tire out of the Tesla. So he shot her and immediately, because the car was within 5-10 feet, immediately shot the 2 tires out. She was already gone.
Why?
So that she wouldn't be able to drive off if she did?
But it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because if she would have, I could see him doing it beforehand because she was going to get her, she was leaving.
It could be like, well, I didn't mean to hit her. As you see here, I shot and hit the Tesla, and then or
he was too drunk to
too drunk. I'm seeing
to hit his target, so he hit other things.
It seemed like
they were impact. I mean, all 3 were impact. Like, he was walking back to that garage. So, which comes up to the part where he went into the garage, he pulls out a barbecue grill cover, and places that under her and is dragging her. So in the videos that's not shown, but in the videos of her, sadly deceased on the driveway of the house, her arms are up and her hair is all pulled back because he's been dragging her. Because I was like, why is she positioned like that? And again, these were the first time I saw any of the pictures. And then I realized he put the barbecue grill, but he couldn't, he was so out of shape, he couldn't drag the body into the garage. However,
he was trying to cover it up or something.
He did hide her purse, her car keys, and her phone that had the video in the garage. And the video was still recording after she passed. It was about a minute and 20 seconds or so, where it's silence. So you don't hear a guy saying, "Oh my God, what did I do?" Oh no, it's it's eerie silence. And then you see him pick up the phone and pick up her purse, and you're carrying it and putting it into hiding it in the garage. The neighbor heard the gunshots, and her husband came out and they thought there was a robbery. And she's like, "I'm going to call the police. I'm calling the police." They were amazing. Too bad. I mean, I feel bad for them because they had to live next to him for 2 years. They said, I'm going to call the police. And he's like, "No, you don't need to call. There's no need for that."
Wow.
And then before questions, the last thing that I really want to make sure is clear, is when the police got there, he never, I mean, if I was to kill someone in a car accident that was completely, an accident that shouldn't have happened, I would be a wreck. I would be like, oh my God, I just took a life, and the guilt and the sadness and the tears and the this can't be real. None of that happened with Carrie. The police came. He never shed a tear. Never said, oh, my wife's dead on the driveway. When they handcuffed him, he sat there and complained that his handcuffs were too tight and that how long is this going to take? You guys don't know who I know downtown. I'm going to make sure. He kept bringing up a police officer that he knows his name. You need to get in touch with them. So you're not dealing with your normal scum. And oh, by the way, if you get me out of this car, gentlemen, we can go into my house and have a conversation. I'll tell you whatever you want to know, as long as you make me a vodka with a shot of cranberry juice. Like, who says this stuff? There was nothing.
Wow.
For over 2 hours. Now it started raining. It was chilly. It was December. Never once said, can you please get my wife off the concrete and respect her, her passing, or nothing. Not, I didn't mean to do it, or she pushed me to do nothing.
He just felt like he deserved respect by having police officers make him a cocktail. Like,
the police officers making him a cocktail. How did the jury not? It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't at all.
Especially when I did the research for the episode I put out, I didn't know all this stuff. And me on a jury,
right?
I mean, the guy, he had fried. Plus, it's Texas. Now, the things you just told me, if I heard that and I'm a juror, there's no way. But
it is tragic. But the tragedy of what the jury did to my sister is almost as bad, because they said that it's all right to, if you're upset with your spouse, or hey, if you're upset with anyone, you just go ahead and kill them and it'll be okay because you were upset. I mean, I'm teaching my 10-year-olds that you have to be responsible for your actions. If you do something, there's a consequence. Do something small, it's a small consequence. Do something big, it's a big consequence. I think what the jury, and I do not know how they're, with the media frenzy that's happened with this case, I cannot imagine that they're sleeping very well at night, knowing that in 45 minutes, they decided that it was sudden passion and he only deserved 10 years with a 5-year parole opportunity.
Sudden passion.
That's what's got to change. I mean, I think so. Sudden passion to me is I walk in on my spouse in the middle of an act and I have a gun.
Exactly.
And I freak out. But let me tell you, even after I do that, I'm going back to the car accident scenario. I'm going to be like, calling 911. Oh my God. I just,
panic.
Not check the safety. Oh, the safety's off. I'm good to go.
I had the same questions when we were going through it. I thought, unless I'm misunderstanding what a crime of passion is.
A lot of it wasn't out. The information's not out there.
Is this something that a Freedom of Information Act can be filed for certain
Like,
details?
I noticed a lot of the stuff that I wanted to put in there was not available. And like you said, a lot of the news media had it wrong. I read an ABC report from when it first happened that Ollie, is that how you say it? That she was 10 years old. The 10-year-old daughter was in the house, and that's completely false.
No, 16. Yeah. And, luckily she was at school, because I think, honestly, what scares me more than anything, if she would have been there, my sister, thought the world of Oli, and the only way he could have really hurt her is to hurt Oli. She stood tall, and I think she dropped the phone right before she was shot. The only reason she wasn't going to show fear to him, and I kind of like, I'm a little mad at her, because that was how she was. That's how she's always been. Like, you're not going to rattle me. You're not going to place fear in me. But if she would have just said, hey, Leslie, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, even if it's not true. But so, are you ready to hear about who the cheating person is? You're going to be shocked. The person is a man in Spain who speaks zero English, has never been to the United States. My sister was learning a little bit of Spanish.
Oh my gosh.
Didn't speak, has never been to Spain. They played dominoes and billiards on the computer together. And this man, who I have spoken to through a translator, feels terrible, like he's responsible for this.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, no, you're not. And, he did have feelings for my sister, admittedly. My sister was probably, I have no doubt, was flirtatious with him. My sister did send him, and this is what the comment about don't blame him. My sister did send him a computer and a cell phone because his was stolen on the family FedEx account. And Carrie knew about it. So Carrie had already known about it. So when the comment, I think you guys mentioned it also, don't blame him. It's not his fault.
I'm done.
I'm done too.
I'm done.
I'm done too. Don't blame him.
Get the f*** out.
It was about a computer and a phone, a used computer and a used phone being sent to a man in Spain who originally I thought was scamming her.
Oh
but
my God.
He's actually, the 2 years I've gotten to, semi know him, online, he legitimately had his computer and phone stolen, and she was being the person that she's always been.
I have an old one laying around. Yeah.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I have a copy of the shipment report that says computer and phone on the family account. So he knew about it.
He brought that up while she was recording because he knew she was recording and he wanted that to be in there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You can emotionally cheat. I get that. I would not be happy. But if you're living a swinger lifestyle and you married a person that for 20 something years has been a flirt with everyone because was her natural ability to have people like her.
Yeah, she's a real estate agent, a top real estate agent,
You gotta be friendly.
Yeah.
I hesitate to even say flirt, just seemed really nice and personable.
Yeah. The whole stigma with this case, I think, is, she was cheating and flirting and stuff like that. I mean, number one, that shouldn't matter for what he did. And number two, she is on, I think one of your friends on here said, Bible Talk said the victim was on trial. So she was on trial for her alleged infidelity, which was not even a thing.
She was not cheating. They took the phones and the computers out of the house, and they had them all data dropped or whatever and researched. Neither the prosecutors nor the defense brought up any of the information to show or not show any sort of infidelity. There wasn't any. My sister was a workaholic. Her daughter was in volleyball, in traveling volleyball. She didn't, like me, she didn't have time. Even if she was, no reason to get killed. But I truly and honestly believe that she wasn't. And that's not just me defending my sister, who I love and I miss every single day. Mm-hmm. That is me looking at the information, knowing who she was and knowing what work ethic she had and what family ethics that she had and morals that she had, that she was not cheating. Did she want to possibly leave? I think so. I think she was done. I think she was ready. Mm-hmm. But people get divorced all the time.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I think I'm almost wondering, so, obviously it feels like the commentary around a potential affair is trying to play into a crime of passion scenario. Did the police do a blood alcohol test on what his blood alcohol level was at the time?
One of the major questions I had, why wasn't that brought up? They did not mention it in trial. It was pretty obvious, especially with the comment, gentlemen, let's go and have a drink in my house and we'll talk. It's 10:30 in the morning, 10:30 in the morning. That was one of the things you had mentioned, because I think you said it was 1 p.m., but it was 10:30 in the morning that this happened.
It's even worse.
So he never stopped drinking from Sunday because he found out the information that she was possibly really going to leave him, got stirred up, continued drinking all night long, and the result was deadly. But no, they didn't bring that up, and he was a functional alcoholic. He always drank. And Oli said that he always drank. She saw him a lot more than me.
That's why I brought up that DUI. I mean, that was 12, 15 years ago or something. I mean, he can't say, I was just really drunk and I didn't know what I was doing.
But he like the fact that he checked the safety.
He's checking the safety. He leaves the gun at the door to chase your sister.
In my mind, I was actually wondering, was he kind of like faking how drunk he was? That's kind of where I was going.
Is that why he was like, let's go get a vodka so I can get my BAC up a little bit?
I think he was that about himself, that he didn't have any issues with his wife being on the cold, wet concrete. But he was still, the man, and he needed to be respected because of who he was. I think if anything, he was just kind of ignoring his action. But I'm really upset with Harris County in the sense that they knew that video was available. I didn't know the video or to see the video until trial, which was a month ago. But how is a video presented at your arraignment and you're given a $200,000 bond when you are on video that was seen by the entire world?
That's the first time I've ever seen anyone who just murdered someone now on house arrest. I mean, I didn't think that was a thing. So
it becomes strange there. And then there was no restriction. Now, it was obvious, we just talked about it, that he had been drinking. You would think that one of the bond conditions would be not drinking, right? There was a restriction about him contacting me and contacting Ole, but strangely, he could contact my sister's friends, which he did, and he could contact my mom, which she told me he did, which was really, really bizarre. But he never contacted me because it was a bond condition. But in August, and, not to go too deeply into this subject, but again, the snowball effect that's happened here. In August, we were supposed to go to trial, and he was moving out of his house, and him and his youngest son was moving stuff into storage because he figured he was going to be going to prison for a period of time. Well, they were drinking.
Oh my
goodness. They ended up getting permission to go to a hotel room to stay there because he did have an ankle bracelet on. During this time of intoxication, what I believe happened, I'm not going to share, but I do believe I know what happened. Regardless, his son committed suicide in front of him with a gun.
Oh, my God.
Drunk. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this story is so bizarre. And, if you
do you think that's accurate?
I do. There was sickening video of that incident on the police cameras. That statements that he made, he's like, I'm currently being charged for, murdering my wife. It didn't work out real well for her on the driveway of the concrete.
Oh,
I mean,
my God.
it was another drunken, and we're talking a year and a half, more than almost 2 years after he killed. So he saw my sister's head blown off, and he saw his son's head blown off. And this person neither time showed a lot of normal reaction.
Yeah, no emotion.
Yeah, you had mentioned he was a narcissist, I believe.
And the jury didn't get to see all of it. So they cut out a lot of that incident in August because they said it wasn't relevant. But
him drinking while on bond is definitely.
I thought the ankle bracelets monitored BAC.
They did see it, and they did see his drunkenness and some of his reaction. But how did they find, my sister guilty, basically? How does that happen? And how does someone get a bond when they've killed someone on video and obviously have a drinking issue? and not have a restriction of alcohol and drugs. I don't get it. The laws have to change. And that's where the only justice I can get for my sister now is that we get the information out there that this law for sudden passion is not appropriate. It allows people an excuse to kill others. And, bond restrictions need to be either not given or more restrictive. He had more freedoms than I did. He was able to go to the grocery store a couple times a week. I wish I could go to the grocery store a couple times a week. He was able to go on walks around the neighborhood. I would get calls from his neighbors saying, oh, your brother-in-law is walking around, it's
wow.
Things have to change legally.
100%. I mean, I still, it's so hard to wrap your mind around the fact that there is no questioning what he did, right? Like it's obvious, it's recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So in the scenario where he's released on bond, it truly just does not compute to me. Of course, he's going to go to prison for some period of time. Should be a heck of a lot longer. So I can't. My brain just can't get there.
The strategy was perfect. It was brilliant. He changed it the moment the opening statements were supposed to start. So he went from a not guilty to, okay, I'm going to change it to guilty and, I'm going to mercy of the court. Mm-hmm. So they had to give him something because they couldn't not send him to prison because he was deemed guilty. But because they had to go through all of the evidence, because in Texas, they get to choose the sentencing phase. So they still had to go through it. So he literally got the minimum. They could have done 5 years, he would have gotten out in 2.5, I guess. But they did the absolute minimum sentencing that they could have allowed. And they did it in 45 minutes, which is another it doesn't make sense how 12 women are able to even, begin discussing a case like this.
That was another thing too. I forgot the 12 women juror, which is,
Do you think that played into it? The fact that it was all females on the jury?
So originally because I didn't get to sit in jury selection, they refused to allow me to. So I don't know what questions or how that proceeded. But when I went in and saw the jury of 14 women, because there was 2 alternates, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. 14 women in the jury box, 2 women on the prosecutor, a judge that's a woman. This guy, they're going to throw away the key.
I know.
That's what
right?
I would have thought too. I really would have just assumed like, oh yeah, it'll be all taken care of. Justice will be served. I think that's really weird. I know John played a lot into this when we were talking about this. I feel like a lot of the blame was shifted to a whole potential affair thing. And I don't know if it's just a morality thing and people were like offended by that concept, which is just crazy to me. I don't know. I am struggling so hard to still understand how it got there at all.
Yeah, me too. And I was there. And I think if a man was on there, because, I'm teaching my 10-year-old son, I don't care what your sister did to you. I don't care what the little friend at school did. You never touch a woman. You never touch a girl, ever, ever, ever. If you have to protect someone and it involves it, you better make sure that, it's protecting someone else, but you never touch a woman. So I don't know, maybe if a man was on the jury, that it would have been, at least discuss it for more than 45 minutes or an hour. I mean, that's what makes me mad is like, you guys, and they would not tell the prosecutors the whys. And from what I've been told, that's very unusual that none of the jurors communicated with the attorneys on why they decided what they decided. And none of them opted to come and hear our victim impact statements.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I wonder if they do feel guilty. The jurors feel guilty now.
I think they have to after the past month of media. I can't imagine them not having some sort of question in their mind.
I would imagine. So there's been, you say, more attention on the case given the light sentencing. It's almost like it added more attention attention to it than there was before.
Yeah. So I think because of the video, which is disturbing to me, like who leaked the video, because a lot of my family, my grandfather, a lot of people have access to that video that shouldn't have access to that video. Yes. My kids, I took my kids and my niece on a cruise for spring break, which was the week after, which was much needed. And we were recognized in Turks and Caicos by someone that saw the Inside Edition episode.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
Like who comes up? I hope they were sympathetic at least. Okay.
They were very appreciative. They actually admitted that they were a victim of domestic violence, and that she hopes that we're able to make headway. And that's where I'm at now. That's why I keep doing the interviews. That's why I keep speaking about it. Is because there's going to be someone that comes along that can help me with the legislative, at least in Texas and Florida. Those are my two main areas. But any place that has a sudden passion law needs to speak to me and needs to understand that sudden passion does not last for 2 days. You do not get sudden passion and get a light sentence when it was premeditated.
Yeah.
And I think you some of what you shared earlier, you may not have known everything that was going on behind closed doors within their marriage and relationship, but there are a few things that you think that you had said later that you think about of she won't make it to 50. She made that statement. So there was a pattern longer there. Her
coming on in October and just not appearing to be her normal self. I think it was a lot. I think COVID had a lot to do with it too. I think that they were put into a house together where, they were both very alpha type personalities, and they probably were, not getting along during that year and a half, 2 years as well. The drinking probably increased. There was, other family incidences that happened during that time. So I think it was just a long, terrible snowball effect that just kept getting bigger, and bigger to end tragically for all of us.
And one of the things and comments that your friend Bible Talks had said that as we were just talking about your sister's kind of strength, there is no guarantee that even if she had acted or behaved differently, that he would not have done the same thing. He knew what he was doing. And I think while it's hard to say, like, could there have been anything done differently to have prevented that outcome? From everything that you've shared and that was seen from the video, her strength is something that people should admire.
Yeah.
And she did not back down to a bully. And while I hate that what happened, she's strong. And I think that is something that a lot of women should look up to and stand up for themselves.
And that's what makes me the most proud of, their daughter is, she's also through, going through this and being only 18 years old. She is doing amazing. And she's strong. And I want her to carry that part of her mom with her and know that there could also be a gentle side too. So not to, just always have to be so strong. I hope that she learns to balance that. But that was one of my sister's greatest strengths is, she was determined and, she took care of others, but most importantly, she made sure that her family and her friends were all taken care of. And even a gaming partner that she had in Spain, that was her. She made sure that he had what he needed and it was nothing more. She had no flight scheduled to Spain and run off to another country to a person that doesn't speak any English.
As romantic as that sounds. Yeah.
Well, you have a Facebook group, and I definitely urge everyone to join it. Justice for Reese.
And I do. So you are trying to at least start in Texas and Florida to get some legislation addressed at this point.
Yes. So my initial goal, again, I've got off the cruise and tried to get my work and family back in some sort of normal order. But my first goals is to make sure that I reach out to different people that, make laws, legislators, people that are activists in domestic violence awareness, and also domestic violence groups. I spoke to someone in Ohio already. Charleston, I welcome any organizations to contact me, because if my sharing the story to someone, it can make a difference, then my sister did not die in vain.
Absolutely.
And I want to publicly on the platform say, thank you for, the GoFundMe that came in originally. It was over $16,000 just in I kept record of every single penny. It was very, very costly to do that. I'm glad I was able to, having young kids, I have a 150-pound Great Dane over there, so
God.
it's not like I could just take off without having a lot of help. So, I'm glad I was able to do that. But if we get to the point of, needing, because I know when you start trying to change laws, there's a lot of things that, go into that. And then, the traveling and everything else. I'm not going to be afraid to ask. I think there's enough people that have heard the story that truly understand that I'm doing this on behalf of all of us in the name of my sister. There's no self-interest here, that I really want to make a difference for those in domestic violence situations. And that being said, I know that we're probably out of time. Domestic violence is not just physical. My sister was more emotional and financial. The financial abuse, hindsight being 2020, there were many times her and I were out and her credit card would be turned off by her husband. And that was, she would say, he just wants me to call him. I'm not calling him back. I need to call Carrie and tell him to turn the credit card. That's abuse. That's abuse. That's control. And
childish too.
So I just want to make sure that people that may hear this, just because someone hasn't hit you doesn't mean that you're not being abused.
Yes.
If you have a little bit of time, would you mind if we went through a couple of the questions that were posted in the chat, if that's okay? I'm starting from a little bit of the top. Some of them we kind of answered as we were talking. Did you ever notice a change in Carrie's behavior, particularly when he was drunk? So was he mouthy, or did he escalate his behaviors when he was drinking?
Yes, especially when we would vacation a couple times in Destin, but other places where he would get mad at other people, like he would strike out, like he would get aggravated, his face would get all red, and it was never towards me or my kids or my sister or Oli, but I was like, control. You're out of control. And he would, admit, I've had too much to drink. And, I shouldn't have said that to, he would make comments that were not kind, regarding other people. So yes, I have seen it, but never directly towards the family.
One of our other supporters had said, I don't know how long or how well you knew him. I assume that causes very conflicting emotions toward him now. What is your current perception and opinions about him after everything?
That's a great question. Will you ever forgive him, do you think?
It's a very good question. I went into the trial praying for 2 years to be able to forgive him. And during my victim impact statement, I apologized to him and to God, because I was like, after seeing this evidence, I can't forgive you right now. And I'm so sorry. Yes, I've been torn. This is a man that I've loved as my brother-in-law for 20 years. This is not how the story was supposed to be written. They were individually, they were both able to move on and find success and continue with the family of, Oli and my kids and me. And I would have never turned my back on him. And it's hard for me now because it's two different people. One of the last texts that I got from him, and I shared with him in my victim impact, is, Mary, if you're still at Publix, can you grab a pineapple? Like, what murderer says, can you grab a pineapple? I mean, it's hard. It's hard because I do have some amazing memories with him, some amazing good times with him. And then I have this. So I hope to be able to forgive him one day. And I hope to be able to speak to him one day.
Did he ever apologize for what he did?
So when I gave my victim impact statement, my daughter had written, again, she's 10 now, she had written a little statement that I read before I read mine. And I was looking at him, and he did get a little teared up when I was reading her statement. Then I read my mom's statement, and then I read my statement. He did not show emotion. The worst part was Oli was after me, and he didn't. I was crying listening to Oli. I don't understand how you can watch your child get up on a stand and say the things she said and not get emotional. If I was him, I would have, shouted out at least to her, but if not to me as well, I'm sorry. I didn't, I'm sorry you're going through this, because our pain was evident. So, no, he has yet to show remorse.
Wow. And has Ollie had any communication with him at all? I know that was not allowed for the 2 years leading. Has she since?
No, we're building a relationship, that's much stronger due to the circumstances. And, we just spent a little over a week with one another. And I don't think she's going to if she wants to speak to him, to ask why, and to basically give her non-court approved opinion of what happened, and say some things to him. And she will when she's ready. She's angry. And like she said in the interview, that day she lost both her mom and her dad. And I truly believe that's how she feels.
Anyone have any other questions? I think we got through them. And anything else that you can think of to share? I mean, I just am so appreciative that you were willing to take the time to share your story.
No, I'm appreciative of you guys getting, the truth out there, and also, allowing a platform to hopefully make a change for these types of crimes and homicides.
Still shaking my head. I'm still shaking my head.
I'm so sorry.
Well, he definitely look up that episode on 2020 on Colin Davis.
I actually just pulled it up here when you said earlier. It does look interesting, though. Did a Texas millionaire get away with a brutal double murder? And you said this is in 1976.
I was surprised. I told the prosecutors about it, so they were not even aware of it. Dan Cogdell brought up, oh, poor Mr. Birmingham. He's had a rough life. His father was killed in a homicide in the 70s. Carrie did not even know anything about this until after my sister and him were married and had to get a DNA test about 10 years ago. So,
wow.
Yeah. So that wasn't a childhood, but again, hindsight, Carrie always wanted to talk about, because I was a criminology major, criminal justice. I was always into stuff like that, interest. And he always wanted to talk about this homicide. And I was like, okay, Carrie, I just really, because I didn't believe everything he said, and it was usually about him. So I kind of didn't I wish I would have now. I wish I would have paid more attention to the story when he started sharing that. But it's an interesting tie around. And like I said, the prosecutors didn't even know the connection that Dan is the understudy of the person that got his father off.
Yeah, that is a weird connection there. Small world, I guess.
No, it was handpicked. Yeah. Carrie knew exactly where to go.
Okay, yeah. Andalyn said, "You are so brave to share this. Thank you."
Oh, thank you for listening.
So before we wrap, do you have suspicions that a lot of the connections did play into the result versus this just being a result of an all-female jury and how this went down?
I don't know what you can discuss we've been on longer than 45 minutes, right?
I think so. We can say for as long as if you don't feel comfortable answering, please do not. My point is we can go on forever.
No, she's saying it took the jury 45 minutes to decide his fate
on someone's fate. state.
That is
And here we've talked for longer than 45 minutes, and
that
you know
is
there's still so many unanswered or so many things that we could discuss if we
That
had.
Yeah.
that is a really
You're
great point.
Spot on.
What it comes down to, the jury wanted to be done. The jury disliked my sister for whatever reason, and they had to give him a sentence of something. So they put their tails between their legs. They gave the what seems to be the minimum, and they took off.
Yeah, your sister was on trial.
She was absolutely 100%. She was on trial, and unfortunately, she lost.
Yeah. And I think everyone that really goes to this case sees that. And I do believe the jury members saw that too once they decided. And that's probably why they didn't want to talk or come to the victim impact statements, because I
wouldn't be able to look you
I
in the
wouldn't.
eye. Oh, no.
I wouldn't be able to sleep if,
And I thought, because I tried to make sure I didn't show any emotion during the trial, I sat in the same seat the entire time. Right in the middle front was the judge. The jury was over to the left, and I would look over to them, and I thought they were connecting to the heartbreak of me and my aunt that was with me, and the friends that were there. I don't think I will ever and I do think one day one of those jurors is going to reach out to me and talk to me. I just have a feeling that that's going to happen. But until then, I will never understand what they could have discussed in 45 minutes and come to that conclusion when I have tried to look at it in every different way, and it's not correct. The system failed us. The system failed my sister.
It did. I do hope that someone reaches out from the jury and speaks to you. I think you're owed that. I really do.
You were definitely owed that.
Well, and I would keep their information private. So if they're listening to this, reach out to me. I would love to talk to you and find or have a better understanding of why. There's a lot of whys in this entire story.
Yeah.
And
What is the best way to reach you? Through your Facebook page, or do you have?
Probably, just reaching out through either the Justice for Reese page, and then you can see my personal page, which I think is how you touch base. A lot of people have been contacting me through that.
Well, keep speaking, keep fighting, and thank you for being strong. You are a role model to a family of very strong women. Ollie too. I mean, whatever we can do to help raise awareness, we will.
Thank you so much. And yes, if you ever meet with someone that needs someone to talk to that understand, that's the other thing is there's us victims, or there's the victims, and then there's us victims that, unless you've lost someone through domestic homicide or even homicide in general, some of my closest friends now are people in support groups that we understand the grief and the sadness and the ridiculous loss of our loved ones because of someone else unable to, control proper behavior. All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you. You have a great evening. Thanks
Bye-bye.
everybody for joining us. Kind of run this shit.